What's up, everyone? So it's actually the morning of day three, so it's Thursday morning. Wednesday wrapped up day two, and let me tell you, that was packed. There was a lot of freaking people there. There was some issues too because they had JD Vance speak early at 9:30, and so they actually not only had people queued up since like 5 to get in, they actually closed the entire event. So normally the expo would be open. You can walk around and check out things beforehand. You can go to some of the other stages like the mining stage, the Genesis stage, but it was 100% closed, so nobody could even come in. And then they only let people in to the Nakamoto stage. So while JD Vance was speaking, there was nothing else to do. So that kind of queued up a lot of people. And like I mentioned in yesterday's video, it was already packed yesterday with about 20 to 25% at most of the attendance. Well, it was pretty packed. I actually stayed in the hotel and live streamed JD Vance. I did not want to spend another 4 or 5 hours waiting in line. I actually opted out of that, and it worked out quite well. As soon as he was done, I just went downstairs and started checking out everything at the expo. But it was like elbow to elbow through that whole event center. And it was that way for a few hours. It didn't dissipate for a while. In fact, I'd say it wasn't until the afternoon where things started lighting up, where you could actually get from point A to point B without bumping into 10 people every 50 feet. So, yeah, it was really overcrowded. I'm not sure if that was somewhat intentional because it looks like the space here at the Venetian could actually handle more or the current amount more comfortably. So either they weren't planning for this or they did and they're intentionally doing it maybe for the optics on how it looks on social media when everybody posts stuff. I don't know. But it ended up, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of a nuisance for me. It reminded me of my days back in high school when high schools were overcrowded and just going from one class to another you kind of push your way through, which is kind of honestly an annoying thing to do every day. But at a conference, whatever. Um, so yeah, that worked out quite well. Yesterday, I got to meet a lot of people on day two. I ended up spending a little bit extra time back in the whale VIP area. But then I also kind of ventured out and met some people out on the floor. I mean, I got a chance to meet Michael Saylor. That was really cool. Got a picture with him. I met Grant Cardone. So I met Gary on day one. Grant I saw on day two. Um, Met Cyborg again. I met her last year, so chatted with her. Met John Deaton, the guy that ran against Elizabeth Warren in the Senate. He's a pretty interesting guy. Got to meet Natalie Burnell towards the end of the day. That was pretty cool. Mark Moss, really good guy in the space, really intelligent, very helpful. Met him. And then probably one of the highlights of the day, second to Michael Saylor, is I got to meet and get a picture with Peter Schiff of all people. And his speech was pretty awesome. His little debate that he had with Natalie Burnell on stage was epic. He admitted a few things on how he's been wrong, and he admitted he's the greatest Bitcoin salesman ever. He claims that when he walks in a busy street, and I'm thinking like in Puerto Rico, like okay, he's probably talking about somewhere else. He says maybe one person will recognize him, but every Bitcoiner knows who Peter Schiff is. So he's like the more people, he said the more selfies I take, the more I realize that people buy Bitcoin because of me, and he's the best Bitcoin salesman. And you know what? There's some truth to that. That's kind of interesting to have him admit that. Uh, one interesting thing that I'm a little discouraged by, and it feels like Bitcoin Magazine is ripping off vendors. And it feels weird to say. I mean, I could use a little bit more research and verify it, but two vendors, when I bought something, they asked me to use credit card. And I'm thinking, this is the Bitcoin conference. They're promoting using Bitcoin to buy things. In fact, they are trying to set a world record for the most amount of Bitcoin transactions in a specific area. And I found out by talking a little bit further, like, why are you guys asking for cash or credit? And if I need to, and that's the only form I have, I can pay in Bitcoin. They, they told me that the organization, Bitcoin Magazine, that puts on the conference, who sets up the terminals and helps everybody out with all this stuff, is charging 8% fees to the merchants. 8% fees. We talk about in the Bitcoin ethos that credit card systems are just a way to keep businesses forced to use their service. They charge them on average 3.5% for every transaction. That's why you see some like restaurants, like out in Arizona, we have a lot of Mexican restaurants that they'll give you a discounted price with cash, but it'll be an upcharge of an extra 3.5% if you pay with card, because that covers all these fees. And we talk about Bitcoin fixes this. Well, not Bitcoin when it's Bitcoin Magazine, apparently. So it really seems like they're scamming out on their merchants, making things a little bit difficult for them. I'm curious. I do need to do a little bit more research on that. So maybe one of the merchants was a little inaccurate, or maybe there were some other issues. But the fact that people in the Bitcoin conference are asking for us not to pay with Bitcoin is a red flag. And that seems to be logical if they're charging 8%. That just doesn't seem right. There's a lot of things that Bitcoin Magazine does that isn't necessarily a Bitcoin maximalist viewpoint, but that is something that's harmful. And I'm not too keen on that. So I want to do a little bit more digging on that to find out. So I'll talk to a couple more merchants today. But one of the biggest things that I wanted to mention to you guys is you can get a free ticket to next year's conference. Now, it only lasts through midnight on Friday, but there's an email link that I'm going to post down in the notes. I'll just put it in the description. So if it's after this Friday, I don't know if it's going to work, but the link should still take you to whatever the cheapest price is at that time. So whenever you see the video, the current price that's listed is the cheapest, because it continues to get higher and higher as you get closer and closer to next year's conference. But they announced it as Las Vegas again, 2026 in April, so about 11 months away. And the festival pass, if you sign up before Friday at midnight, is free. Now that this week was $700, and that's the one that most people get. It's the general admission. It gets you into pretty much everything but a few small things that you're not allowed to go to. And normally when it's a year before, you can get the ticket for like somewhere between $200 to $300. So that's a decent deal. So you can get a free festival pass ticket for next year. If you buy a ticket too, just as a little note, go on Twitter, go on X. Everybody's got codes. There's 10% codes for everybody. In fact, I think if you buy a ticket, you get a link where you can post a code to give people that follow you or whatever 10% off. And so everybody's got a 10% off coupon. So just find one on X or Twitter. That would be the best way to go. All right. Well, today's going to be another busy day. I'm going to try to get my update in later tonight. It won't really matter if it's Friday, but it's the last day. So there's some really huge keynote speeches, especially in the second half of the day. We got Michael Saylor's got a speech. The last talk of the day is going to be Ross Ulbricht, and that's kind of a keynote of a keynote. Everybody's excited about that. A few years ago in Miami, was it 22 or 21? I can't remember what it is. They had a phone conversation when he was in prison. And that went over very well. But this will be his first actual real public event or speaking event since he was released from prison when his sentence got commuted on day 2 from Trump. So I'm a little excited for that. You can stream it online. You don't have to be there in person for it. I'm definitely going to be there in person for it. That's something I do not want to miss. All right. Well, it's been an awesome day. I finally got some sleep last night. There was a lot of things going on. Of course, there's a lot of things going on after today too. So it's a great time out here. I'm actually kind of glad they'll bring it back to Vegas next year too, because it's easy to come to and Vegas can handle it. So we'll see how things go. All right, I'll get you on the next update for tomorrow on the day 3 finale.